What's up, everybody? It is Russ Beard, and today I've only got one question for you. Does music suck? Alright, in all seriousness, no, I do not think that all music sucks now. I'm not one of those doomers that just has to be negative about everything, but I do think that there is a drastic decline in what we have in quality and the amount of music that's being produced, and I think that really we're in a weird spot when it comes to music in general. Today I'm going to be talking mainly about metal music, of course, because that is the genre that I listen to the most, but I do think that a lot of these points I'm going to bring up can be applied to just about every genre of music. I'm probably not even going to bring up country music at all in this because my opinions on that are a lot, but if you would like a video of me talking about metal versus country versus whatever, or just country music in general, just let me know and I will do a whole separate video on that. I could talk for days about that. Anyway, so the thing that sparked the idea for this video to begin with is something that me, Zeus Wiener, and Toby used to do on the Cosmic Pizza channel. They're still up if you want to watch them. I'll leave a link for them in the description. But we used to do this thing at the end of every year, and usually in December, that we kind of made a tradition for the last couple years that I was living in Iowa, where we would do the top 5 albums of that year. It was just something that we like to do. It was fun. We like to discuss the music that had come out for the year and like the bangers that had really shown themselves, high and mighty for the year. I think I'm still gonna do that. I gotta talk to the guys and see if they're still down to do that video, but it'll have to be virtual now. I live on the coast, of course, so we'll have to do a virtual video chat thing, I think. I don't know, we'll work it out. I was talking to them in a group chat the other day about how there really isn't any albums that are coming out, as far as metal albums go, that are popping, and I think Derek also brought up that in previous years, we've had albums that have just like shined beyond the other albums entirely. There were albums like Welcome to Horrorwood from Ice Nine Kills and In the Court of the Dragon by Trivium, and there's albums like that for that year, they just stood out in our opinions. Of course, this is all opinionated. They stood out above the rest, and it was very easy to find a 1 and a 2 spot. The 4, 5, and 6 and 3 spots were a little bit more challenging because even the honorable mentions that we had, and even some of the EPs, which we don't usually include EPs, but there was just this huge challenge finding 5 albums for each of us that we could put into just our top 5. If it was a top 10 video, we could have easily made those. We found ourselves at a loss a lot of times when we were trying to find the best 5 because there was just so many things coming out that were really fun, really exciting, new, fresh, and especially for metal, because there's a lot of cookie cutter bands, there's a lot of copycat bands, there's a lot of people that just kind of they think they're doing something unique, but it turns out to sound exactly like something else that's already been done 100 times. And that's really a shame, honestly. My point is, we were looking into albums for this year, of course, and we were just kind of discussing a couple of the standouts, and I say that loosely because we couldn't really think of any standouts. Worm Shepherd put out an EP that was really cool, but again, it's just an EP, so we don't really include EPs because we want to just dedicate it to the top albums. Trivium hasn't put out anything in a while. We haven't had any big names. Metallica obviously put something out this year, but let's face it, it's Metallica. It sounds like a Metallica album. There's nothing new or fresh or exciting about it, in my opinion. Again, a lot of that stuff will be discussed in our top 5 video for this year if we end up doing that, so I'm not going to go too much into that. However, I think that we can look at some things, some statistics, or some examples, rather, of albums from the 90s, from the 2000s to the 2010s, and then when you get to this bracket, and I know we're only 3 years into it, but let's face it, guys, in 3 years, you'd think that we'd have a little bit more to go off of. There'd be a little bit more, especially with the amount of music that's being put out. You'd think that there'd be more standouts, but there really isn't, and it really sucks because music at one point in my life was pretty much all I did. I engulfed myself in music. I listened to music all the time. I had my iPod on me all the time. Once I started getting, my first smartphones and stuff, I would just overload them with music. And then, of course, when Spotify came, it changed the game entirely. So, I have music and I'm playing music all the time. But I was at work the other day. I'm a delivery driver, and I've got really long distance to drive for some of my routes. Obviously, I have my music playing. I was in my playlist of albums from this year, new albums from this year, and I was listening through them, and I just kind of spaced out, honestly. I didn't really... There was like one or two moments maybe where I was just kind of like bobbing my head, and I was like, okay, yeah, this is pretty fun. I like this quite a bit. I think after that day, I went straight back to listening to like Ascendancy by Trivium, and I was listening to some Kerouac Angren. Okay, don't get me wrong, I love those albums. I really do. I love Trivium. I love Kerouac Angren. I love early 2000s metalcore. Like, I'm into all that stuff. It blows my mind that we are in a world right now where everybody can make music. Everybody has the means at their fingertips. Like, I know Peyton, for example, TheNewBonnie, he makes music on his phone. Dude, you can make music no matter who you are nowadays. And for whatever reason, I feel like that is creating this vortex of good music that is coming out of it. I figured in a world where we can have all this music being pumped out all the time, you'd think that just throw stuff at a wall until something sticks, you know? And volume would naturally bring out more good stuff, right? But I think that's actually got the opposite effect on what we're seeing right now, because yes, everybody can make music, just like in Ratatouille, everybody can cook, or anybody can cook, or something like that. But I don't know if everybody should, you know, like, don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to hate on people expressing themselves or making music. I make music myself that I don't think is the greatest. Of course, most artists don't think that their art is great. I mean, I like it. It's catchy, and I make some fun stuff, I think. I don't know anything about music. I don't know anything about music theory. I don't know how, like, things work together. I just know that if I put these notes here, and I move these notes around, and I have these chords here, or whatever, and I add this vocal here, or whatever, it sounds good. And that's literally how I make my music. Sorry, I just wanted to mention and clarify this. I'm currently editing this, and I realized that I probably sounded like a complete douchebag. I don't disagree with anybody making their music on their phone or tablets or whatever it is that they make music on. I don't think that's what's making the current climate of the music suffer. I just think that in the grand scheme of things, having everybody available to make music is creating an atmosphere where there is more bad than there is good. That's all I'm saying. Especially, I mentioned TheNewBonnie in there. Disregard that. I didn't mean to make it sound like his music is worse because he makes it on his phone. He does make really good music, and I do want to give a shout out to him. I'll put a link in the description of this video to his Spotify if you want to check his stuff out. And if you want to check out my music as well, it will also be linked in the description of this video. Anyway, continue watching the video. Thanks, bye. Where are these standouts? You know, where's the big names in music? Let's just look at some examples for right now. Here we've got the 90s, and I'm going based on from the 90s on because I was born in the 90s, so obviously that is where a lot of my music taste comes from. The first thing I'm going to pull up is the 90s, just a screenshot, of course. This is not a definitive list, but let's just go over a couple of them. We've got Rust in Peace by Megadeth. We've got Cowboys from Hell by Pantera. We've got the Black Album. And I know a lot of people have mixed opinions on the Black Album. I personally like it. Fight me. I don't care. Anyway, we've got Roots by Sepultura. We've got No More Tears by Ozzy. Facelift by Alice in Chains. Dude, Opeth's Still Life came out in '99. We've got just absolute bangers. We've got Slipknot's self-titled album, Hatebreeder by Children of Bodom. A lot of these just stick out from the crowd. Like, yes, this is just one screenshot. There was a lot of albums, obviously, that came out that year, or in that year bracket. These are some of the standouts. Vulgar Display of Power came out in '92. Come on, man. Like, there's at least 50 standouts from the 100-something albums that came out in the 90s in the metal genre. It just doesn't make any sense to me how today, for the last 3 years, I can think of maybe 2 albums that really stood out amongst the crowd. and we're technically almost 4 years in. Anyway, moving on, let's go to the 2000s, the early 2000s. We've got Toxicity by System of a Down. We've got Blackwater Park by Opeth. We've got The Sickness by Disturbed. We've got Brave New World by Iron Maiden. Ashes of the Wake by Lamb of God. They were just coming up. Iowa by Slipknot, one of my favorite albums of all time. These are albums that just stand the test of time past anything that is coming out right now, and it just blows my mind. Shogun by Trivium also came out. Again, one of my favorite albums of all time. The Devil You Know by Heaven and Hell. I listened to the shit out of that album when it came out. Blows my mind. Follow the Reaper, Children of Bodom, Ghost Reveries by Opeth, Clayman by In Flames. Dude, the list goes on. The Poison by Bullet for My Valentine. That one, my disc probably won't even work anymore. I played that so much. Now, we go into the 2010s, and here I think we are reaching a plateau. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I think we got to the height in the early 2000s as far as metal goes, but I think in the 2010s we did see some really, really cool albums, especially like Rivers of Nile, Where They Always Know My Name was amazing. Love that album. We've got, I'm going to butcher the name of it, but Askeles de Lune by Alcest. I remember listening to that album a lot. I'm terrible at pronouncing the names. Fear Inoculum by Tool came out a couple years ago. I don't know what a lot of people's position on that was, but I personally thought it was really good. The Satanist by Behemoth. Like, we've got a really good list of things that came out in the 2010s, and again, this is just one screenshot. We've got tons and tons more. I'm just trying to go over some of the highlights, and then let's go to the 2020s, for example. So far in 2020, obviously we've got 2020 through 2023. Still, even in the earliest years of those decades, we still got great albums coming out all at once. Right now we've got I Disagree by Poppy. It was pretty cool. I liked several of the songs on there. Eternal Blue did make it to my list on the top 5 albums of 2021, so I gotta put Spirit Box out there. What the Dead Men Say by Trivium was really good. I don't know, Catatonia's fun. Black Dahlia Murder usually puts out some bangers, but like, I don't know. I just feel like right now we're in a state where there is not nearly enough highlights coming out as far as metal goes, or any genre for that matter. Honestly, pop and hip-hop and stuff like that, most of it sounds the same nowadays. Most of the topics and the subject matter in those albums are the same, and I don't know, it's not my cup of tea. Anyway, what do you guys think? Let me know what you think in the comments. Do you guys have any standout albums that have come out in the 2020s, more specifically 2023 thus far? I'd love to hear what you think about that. Are there any that I'm missing? Is there anything that I just don't see? Maybe I'm overlooking something. I don't know, maybe it's due to COVID. Maybe COVID messed everything up. Maybe TikTok's messing everything up. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. Make sure you hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content like this, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.